future's now, old man.
What it do, boo boo? This is the Future First podcast where we help you win today with a future first mindset. I am your co host, Jmac. This is Jose, the, the Toe Clan champion. He is Jason's Black Polo himself. Jose, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm great, Jmac. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing good, man. I'm real excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. It's been a long time coming, and I'm just happy we're here, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's been great to start working on this with you. I've been super excited too. I think we have a lot of similar ideas, but also a lot of places where we don't exactly agree or we disagree in certain areas, which can make for some great, discussion. So I'm hoping we get into some of that good stuff tonight. Um, yeah, but how do you see it going on between like how we kind of work together, how the whole thing may come along?
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree with you. Just kind of big picture, like who we are, where we came from, type of thing. We're just two friends, and we met on the Foot Clan on the Discord. We love Dynasty, and we're just looking to kind of put our thoughts out there, put our takes out there, and have some fun doing it. And that's why we kind of put together this podcast, The Future First. Um, yeah, I don't know if you want to maybe dive in a little bit more on that and kind of the why and who we all want to be about it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So what everybody kind of knows what we're doing here, right? Talking fantasy football, dynasty centric type of talk. But the why are we doing this? I think we're both passionate about the game. We see it as it is a game. But it's a hobby of both of ours, right? We spend a lot of time in it, and we just want to have a space to talk about it, get our ideas, get our thoughts out there. Like I said, we're dynasty forward. We're going to cover a little bit of everything. We try to sprinkle in redraft, keeper, like lots of different things. Kind of stay mostly talking about dynasty just because it's year round, gives us something to talk about all the time. Um, I think one of the things that you said that I really agree with is bold, but not sensationalism. Right? There's plenty of
Mm.
people out there that do the sensational thing, and that's cool. I'm not. I don't have sensationalist takes, neither do you really. So I don't. It doesn't really fit our style. But I think it's more about strategy that's backed by analytics, which is you're a numbers guy. That's what you do kind of as an engineer. So that's kind of what you kind of drive. I'm more of stats, but more of like how do I feel, more vibes, more like what does my gut tell me, and it could be completely wrong, and that's okay. But that's kind of how I like to play. So I think that's kind of where we kind of match up our two different styles. Yeah, like how did you kind of get started? I know you wanted to talk a little bit about where our fantasy game, our fantasy careers, where we started and stuff. So why don't you let the people know about that?
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, I've been playing fantasy now since 2011. Is when I started in redraft. Just played in a home league with some high school friends, and it was a blast. I think I really started getting into it, kind of diving into podcasts. I picked up the footballers, at 2017, I think, and that's kind of when I started really plugging in and kind of putting some effort into the game. I won my first championship that year on the back of Christian McCaffrey, and then also Russell Wilson on the Seahawks that year. That was a big year for him. And I picked up and just kept going, man. And I jumped in my first dynasty league last year with the premier Foot Clan league, the Toe Clan. Shout out to and everyone out there. And yeah, man, it's been a blast. I've been just consuming content, and I think with me just kind of diving in headfirst into this has been something I've been wanting to do, to get on and jump in, put my own thoughts out there. So Yeah, what about you, man? How long you been playing?
So I've been playing pretty casually redraft for probably like 5 to 6 years. So like kind of around the same time, 2018, 2019, just kind of random. I didn't have a group of like we liked sports, but nobody really did fantasy, and I didn't know that was a thing. I think I actually started with like a fantasy basketball league, and then I football was way more interesting to me, so I gravitated that. But it was mostly like ESPN, Yahoo random, just leagues with randoms, the types that like, week six half the league's dead because they've lost, like that type of stuff. So it was, and then obviously getting into it a hobby, you want to get better, so you go on YouTube, it's kind of hard if you're looking at fantasy content to not come across the ballers, and then
Yeah.
gradually. I didn't even know the Discord, even though we're in the 2020s. I didn't know Discord was a thing. I think I found the ballers in like 22, and I watched them and everything for a whole year before even thinking about going on the Discord. And yeah, man. And then I think once I hit the Discord and kind of just got around people, and I was like, oh, there's like people that are way more into this than I am. It kind of like brought me in, and then just seeing everybody talk about Dynasty. I think it was 2 years ago actually when I started, and right when the Toe Clan happened, I was just very into it. Happened to get picked up for the Toe Clan. And yeah, man, Dynasty's just kind of been my thing since. It's trying to keep my league count low, not to go too crazy because it's in the off season, especially when there's no redraft. It's too easy to just, oh yeah, sure, here's an orphan, here's another league, here's another startup. Like, drafting is really fun. So I'm trying to keep the league count low. Um, maybe just luck, because I normally just tend to play to win. I'm not a really much about rebuilding or house money like type of teams. I usually build pretty fragile like win now teams. I've had quite a bit of success in Dynasty the last couple years, winning Toe Clan last year, but then winning several other leagues from the Foot Clan that I've joined. But yeah, man, I mean it's been fun. I think getting into Dynasty and playing along with people like you and several of the leagues we're together, and just the Toe Clan in general, it kind of really brings out that community and like fun, like more fun aspect of playing with people who are trying to win, but also who enjoy the thing and don't do it just so casually.
Yeah, man, no, I feel you on that. It's having that competitive environment where people are plugged in and they're actionable and they're responsive. It makes all the difference, and I think that's why I love Dynasty so much is because it's so trade centric. And in redraft leagues, I think that was one of my favorite things to do was craft trades. I was always sending out trades, and in redraft leagues, like so many people are hard to pull the trigger on that, especially when you get in those casual leagues, your work leagues or your ones with your buddies and stuff. So I'm just so happy, to be plugged into to the Foot Clan and the Toe Clan, and to have that resource to find these leagues that we're in now. And I think my total is up to 13 this
Oh man.
season. Yeah, and looking to add more. I'm not gonna lie, but it's gonna be a slow drip. I'm trying to do like one or two a season, so that way I can keep those startups going. I feel like startups are a ton of fun, and they're also a really great experience to kind of help you understand, the strategy and the theory to the game, and stay plugged in with what's going on with all the players. So it's just I love it. I love it, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna stop. I don't know if I'll end up with 50 leagues. Maybe I'll get to the point where I'm like, okay, this was one too many, and I can kind of curb it from there. But yeah, man, how many leagues are you in total now?
I'd have to pull it up, but I want to say that like leagues that I, play a lot of attention to. I want to say it's like 9 or 10. I got caught up last year because then the redraft. I'd picked up a lot of Dynasty, and then the redraft season came, and there was, the Ballers do the Megala Bowl. There was the Mods League, and then I picked up a couple other, and it was just the problem was the lineup setting every week and doing the waivers. It became such a like thing where I was like, all right, I need to trim down, and like I think what you've been doing a lot of best ball is the way to go, because even in Dynasty, if you do it like the Token is, where it's transactional dynasty best ball, you get the drafting experience, and then you also get the trading experience, the future picks, everything, and then you don't have to worry about the lineup, which is I think takes a lot of time, and it's like something I did not made me not enjoy fantasy as much last year, when it was like, all right, here's an hour of my day I need to dedicate to set all my lineups to make sure, I want to win, right? Like, I'm not trying to start, people on buys or like do all those things. So that was something I was cognizant of, and I dropped a couple leagues where I definitely had good teams, good contenders, but I was just like, one, this league is just not very active. It's not, even if people do trades, it's like nobody talks, nobody does anything. Like, you put a player on the block, like the same two people might respond, that type of thing. Those leagues just weren't worth it, even if I was winning. Like, winning money's cool, but I also want to have like a fun experience. So yeah, I think probably like 9 or 10 right now.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a good number. I think it's enough to where you get all your favorite parts and you get enough of it, and then it's not an overburdened, because it can be. It's the portfolio players, like they're always talking about how they have some leagues that are kind of just shoved off to the side, and it is what it is, man. But yeah, I guess, would you say Dynasty is your favorite format? And from there, if it is, are we talking best ball lineup, or what kind of scoring settings are
I
your preferred?
Although I do like the best ball aspect, because I do enjoy setting the lineups. I think there is an edge to be gained during the season, doing that hard work of like really studying matchups, really looking to gain an edge about making the smart decisions. Obviously, like,
Mm,
you're starting Jefferson every year, every week. You're starting Chase every week, Lamb. Like, you're starting the studs. But like, when you get especially into those larger formats, since you were talking about it, I do really enjoy either the three wide receiver and super flex, or the three wide receiver, three flex. The more vanilla leagues with like two running backs, two wide receivers, like I mean, those are cool, but it's just harder to get those edges. And I do think that in startup, start sit decisions, you can make a big difference, in terms of like how plugged in are you during the season. Dynasty, I think, is neck and neck with redraft. I think I just don't do as much
mm,
redraft, because by the time the redraft season, the last couple of seasons has rolled around, I have too many leagues where I'm like, I want to join another redraft, but like, I just don't think it's smart. Like, I still want to enjoy it. So I think Dynasty is, and it's also like you said, like the trade market, when you have those picks, it just adds a completely
mhm.
new thing that you can entice people to trade, right? Because like, people are, a lot of times I've noticed, like, very entrenched in like, well, I have this player and I love this player and he's the best player. I don't want to trade him away even for anything. And it's like, once you entice people with those extra, incentives and extra things like the picks, I think that makes what makes Dynasty really exciting to play. What about you? Like, what kind of league do you prefer?
Yeah, man. I think that whole extra layer, it brings in so much strategy, and diverse ways to play the game, which I really enjoy. And even when you're out, you're still in, and you got to stay locked in, and you got to stay, grinding, which I really like. So I would say Dynasty for sure. I've really gravitated towards best ball. I think for me, it's easier. The start sit decisions are not my favorite. They cause me, oh man, so much anxiety, and like just the regret, and all of it come with it. But also, besides that, like the best ball aspect, the lineup and the roster construction part of it is different, and I enjoy that because those leagues bring a whole new value to players that you don't have in lineup leagues, and that's fun because you have more relevant players, and it kind of opens up trades to be a little more plentiful, which I really enjoy, or I found at least. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm sure over the time we're going to talk a lot more about all of our leagues, and there will be a lot more of it. Let's dive in to what we got for us tonight. We're going to be looking at some stats and vibes. So, I'm going to give in what I'm seeing on the number side, and you can chime in with what you're thinking is happening with that player. And then we'll also give out some surprise players, some people that we think are going to surprise the community one way or the other. Maybe they're being overlooked, or maybe they're being overhyped. So we'll get into that and dive into that a little more. But first, let's do a quick hit, man. Me and you and some other members of the Toe Clan are doing a best ball league where we're using the Scott Fish Bowl 15 scoring settings, which is a lot of fun. And on top of that, I'm also
But let's
doing
not let's not bury the lead. You're actually in the Scott Fishbowl, so that's come on. I mean, like people wait a long time to get in there, so I mean, congratulations. I know you were doing the live draft. You started it. What was it, last weekend? There's you guys were out there for an hour, so that's awesome, man. I mean, the fact that you're actually in the Scott Fishbowl, that's pat on your back, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. It was a blast, and yeah, I'm super happy to be in it. Shout out to Biggs for getting me in. He's the coordinator out here in Northern California. He lives in the hometown with me. He's a for the Undroppable Fantasy Advice Network. Good guy, and yeah, he got me in. And last weekend, oh man, it was so fun. It was just three different leagues drafting at one time in a bar. People were talking dynasty strategy. There was auctions going on. There was a raffle. It was just such a good time, man. I met a few new people, and I just finished my last pick tonight. I took Troy Troy Franklin with my 22nd
Nice.
overall pick. It gets slim at the end there. Took a little flyer on that guy, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Scott Fishbowl, very, very unique settings. It is an ultra flex, as they call it, which means you start 9 flex players and 2 super flex players. So you have an 11-man starting lineup, and then you have an 11-man bench normally, so 22 total. And the theme this year, volume is king. And what that translates to in Sleeper is 2.5 sweet, sweet points per reception, which is just many. And then on top of that, tight ends are getting a full 1 point premium, and running backs are getting half point per carry, which is really where I kind of dove into it. But yeah, man, I mean, given those scoring settings, like, how are you kind of attacking that lineup? Or I know we're in the middle of the best ball draft here, but kind of give me your thoughts on strategy and the scoring.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of, I was drafting towards the end. I think you're right at the turn, right? You're 112. So I noticed right away that you specifically and a couple other people, Fox, who's does some great fantasy content as well, kind of, and I think she's also in a Scott Fish Bowl, so a little bit experience for snatching up the running back. So in the middle of the rounds, I realized that the running back would be pretty strong with the point 0.5 per carry. But I also really zeroed in on the tight ends because I feel like you're getting 3.5 points per reception, so that kind of really elevates, like, everybody talks about the McBrides and the Bowers, and they're going to be elite of elite. But those middle guys like an Ingram, Hunter Henry, those kind of like tight end bottom tight end ones, tight end twos, I think can really make a difference, especially when it's the ultra flex. So if you have three tight ends and maybe they only catch 6 passes, but and it's not a lot of yards like tight ends tend to do, but with those 3.5 points, those 6 catches already are, those are huge. So I zeroed in
Mhm.
on tight ends, at least some of those kind of, I think I took McBride, but I also looked into some of those kind of more, the ones that everybody kind of holds their nose at in normal drafts because, tight ends are lame and they're going to score you 5 points or nothing. But, I really zeroed in on that. And then just the running backs that have the opportunity to have a lot of carries, even if it's not great for good teams. In kind of muddy situations, or it's very obvious who the backup is going to be. I try to, like, once all the elite running backs were gone, I try to really think about who's a running back that, injuries happen all the time, even if it's for 5 games, with it being like the best ball part of it. Like since you don't have to worry about looking at it, if those guys are already on your team, that was kind of my mindset of like once we're getting into these kind of like the teen rounds and like later when all the elite running backs are gone, just thinking really about who's a running back that as soon as there's an injury is going to have 15 carries a game or more, right? Like, that's the offense, that's the build they have. So that's kind of what I focus on. What about you, since this is kind of your second go at it?
Yeah, well, I mean, given the two different formats here, the best ball really changes things for me. And then also given that the other one is a tournament format, so I attacked them differently.
Okay.
Um, in the best ball, for me, given that it's a flex position, you're just filling them. You really only need to make sure you get your quarterbacks in there, which you can get really, they're pretty suppressed, this in this scoring system. So I felt fine getting them, in the late round, dumpster diving. I think I got guys like Geno Smith, Matt Stafford, Tua, I think was in there. I think I even grabbed a fourth one at the end. I think I don't remember who it was, but I grabbed a fourth one. And besides that, I'm just I just went through my rankings and I'm just grabbing the top from bottom. Just give me points. Since it's best ball, I had no issue grabbing those, um, wide receiver two types or wide receiver three types that are gonna boom bust. Like that didn't matter to me. I was just grabbing anybody. Just give me the top point scorers on the board, and put them on my team in the best ball format. But in the tournament format, it's so different. I was really looking at it since I have to choose 11 starters in a week. Give me the guys that I know have a safe floor, but also a good ceiling. And the way the draft fell to me, I ended up taking 8 running backs just off the rip, back to back to back. And I created some waves. People were like, "Oh, he's gonna take another running back," and it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun, and the settings allow you to do that, and it just made sense. So I think I ripped Saquon, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Omarion Hampton, Caleb Johnson, Travion Henderson, Aaron Jones, and Isaiah Pacheco. Those are my first 8 picks. They're all starting running backs. Those rookies, they might have a little bit of competition out the start. But then after that, I took, yeah, again, I don't want guys like Jordan Addison or like like a Calvin Austin or I don't want them on my team. I have to choose when to put them in my lineup, and that's I'm never gonna hit that. Like give me the guys. I choose Jacoby Myers. Give me
Right.
him.
Yeah.
He's the wide receiver one on his team. I'm fine. He's gonna get 5 catches a game. Cool. Like that's what is that? 12 and a half points plus yardage right there. Um, and then yeah, I did the same thing. My first quarterback taken was in the 10th round. And then after that, I took a couple upside guys. I took like Emeka Buka, which I think I would take that one back if I had to, and I'd probably go a little more safe production there. And then after that, running backs, backup running backs. Because again, I want to know when to start these guys, and I have to put them in, and I want to know when they're giving me production, and I don't want to have to bet on a Marvin Mims or Alec Pierce or even like Pop Douglas. Like I feel pretty good that he's gonna get pretty good usage this year, but why? Just like I have my 8, 9 starters, and then hopefully chaos and draft like you're right. I hear that all the time with these best ball guys in their tournaments. They always say draft like you're right, which means you're not taking your handcuff to your RB1 because you're drafting like that RB1 is going to hit all season, and you're picking up another player that is going to have a ceiling play that you can put in there. So that's kind of what I leaned on for the tournament format. And Man, I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. I'm sure it's gonna go terrible. There's 5,000 people in that tournament, and the expectations are probably gonna hit home real quick.
So the tournament
But yeah,
format is like kind of like one of those big best ball tournament formats. I know it's not best ball, but like that's how it is. Like you go through the weeks, and then when you get to certain weeks, there's cutoff points that you need to make to advance. Is that how it works?
yeah, it's similar. It's I think you play 12 weeks regular
Okay.
season, and then I don't remember what it is. I think it's like if you have 13 wins, which then you get in, and then if beyond that, it goes like top scorers, I think.
Okay.
And then from there, the field reduces 50% each week, and then I think there's supposed to be 50 players left in the final week, and top scorer wins. So
Nice. Okay.
yeah, it'll be interesting. I think you need a unique build um, to kind of differentiate yourself in that kind of field, but hopefully it's unique enough, and we'll see. But I'll keep you guys posted on that as the season progresses. You want to dive in to some stats and vibes here, man?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
All right, for this week on stats and vibe, we're going to highlight Jackson Smith and Jigba, who is he's getting some hype this year. He's definitely up there in the top startup rounds. I think he's going in the third or fourth round usually. So, and his value, on where I'm seeing him going is like a high 25 first round pick, like a 103, 104 probably. And you're probably going to need, a future first plus to break him off someone's team. And despite him breaking out last year, you know, and him going in the top 3, 4 rounds, the hype on him has just kind of been whelming. Like I don't think people are really buying him, and no one's really wanting to sell him either. So he's just kind of fallen in this in between zone. And yeah, he has an ambiguous situation. I think you want to dive in on the vibes on that first. Let's kind of break down his season or his outlook for what his team is bringing him.
Yeah, so I think that it's just whelming part. It's very lukewarm, I think. I think a lot of people, if you have him on your team, you experienced that great season or, breakout season last year, so you're afraid to move off in case he is the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, the next one of those guys that's entering the elite status. So for me, the way I see it is like you have you're dating this girl. She's hot. She's, you're everything is going pretty well, right? It was sketchy at first, that first season, that first part of the relationship was not great, but you stuck in, and then you had this amazing time. It's been going great, and then now you started to kind of meet the family. You started kind of getting to meeting the parents, and
Oh
um
no.
and now it's a little bit, now you're not so sure. She's great, but people that are coming with her, you have a lot of questions, right? So the dad, we can, the typical dad of the group, Sam Darnold, the quarterback. What is he? He had a great year last year. He is coming around. He seems like he's more involved in his daughter's life. He wants to meet you. He seems like a good guy, but he's got a pretty sketchy past. You don't know that has he come back from that? Is he a completely new man? Is he going to be seeing ghosts again? Nobody knows, right? It's very up and down. Was it the system? What was it? What made him turn his life around? So, and then you have the new OC, right? The dad's coming in. This is the dad's, your girlfriend's stepmom. It's a new stepmom. She's had 4 relationships with single dads in 4 years now, which is what the new OC has. In 4 years, he's had 4 jobs. If he's really good at his job, would nobody wanted to have kept him around, right? It's one of those things where you're kind of thinking like, what's going on with Kubiak? What's his deal, right? His offense is derived from, if I'm not wrong, right, the McVay tree, or so, like it comes from that tree, so you expect it to be good for JSN. He should, but it's a lot of question marks. He's not a coveted OC. He's not somebody who you are deeply in love that he's come to take over. You think JSN's talent, right? How much you like this girl should be able to, overcome these things, but it's a lot of question marks. And like when you're talking about trading for, you're gonna commit to this girl long term. Her family's gonna be around. I mean, the dad comes and goes, the stepmom may come and go, it may change, but you have to commit to her. But she has all this baggage, right? So and then there's a situation of now JSN, I think everybody would say is the number one guy, right? He came into a situation where it was, well, there's Lockett and there's DK. He's the third guy. Once Lockett's gone, JSN will take more of a role. And even with Lockett there last year, he took over. Even with DK there, I think he pretty much took over as the alpha. But now, we've seen it time and time again when these guys have a Batman or a Robin, whichever one, and then all of a sudden they get left alone. Are they able to still
Mm.
dominate, right? Is their OC, who we have questions about, his quarterback, who we have questions about, still able to get him to those spots where he can be this dominant player? So now that DK's gone, how is that coverage going to look like? What, offensive coordinators, obviously, they're going to be focused on him. How is he going to be able to perform, right? So, those are kind of the vibes that I got. That's kind of how I'm feeling personally. I'm a little bit scared. Like I'm looking at her. I'm like, how's your dad? How's that whole situation? Like, maybe not go to the barbecue today. Let's go do something else. Trying to forget about all those things because you really like the player, right? I know you would dive into it right now about the stats and what those metrics and kind of what they show. So why don't you kind of tell us why we love this potential prospect so much?
Yeah, man. Well, it's, 17 games last year. He had 100 receptions for 1,130 yards with 6 touchdowns. He had a slow start to the season last year too. So he came on hot. I think he had one big week where he had like he put up 33 points, I think, in a week, which kind of really helped him get there. So a little inconsistent. He finished as the wide receiver 10 in half point scoring last year. So I think that's why we're seeing him go where he's going. We always have this recency bias, and that's kind of vaulting him into the high wide receiver tiers. But yeah, wide receiver 19 in points per game last year with 12 and a half points per game. And again, I think that was a lot of it was slow start. But he's good, man. I mean, he's really, really good. And coming out of college, he was good. And I think people forget that because, that draft class just wasn't all that great in general, for wide receivers at least. And then on top of that, he did not have that first season that people thought he would. He was kind of stuck behind, I'm blanking on his name now, the same guy that buried Rome Odunze last year on the Bears. The offensive coordinator who's now fired and he's not on the team. But he's good. And last year his per route metrics, he had a 29.6 targets per route run. While doing that, he had 2.2 yards per route run. So this guy was demanding targets and he was making the most of them too. You really elite status on the targets per route run is 30% or more, and he's right there. Yards per route run, you're probably looking at like 2.5 or higher, for those elite guys, and again, he's right there. So I think he can probably live up to that status, but yeah, it's like you're saying, man. Like, what's his dad gonna do? Is he gonna start bringing up politics at Thanksgiving, or is he gonna be cool and just kind of let everything slide? I guess and kind of just to open it up a little bit more, reception perception. Matt Harmon, he does a lot of great work on open, like how well these guys are running routes and how well they're getting open. and his metrics are all aligning there too, which matches with the targets per route run. He's got a 75% success rate versus man coverage. We want to see them be above 70% there. 79% success rate versus zone. He says you want to see him above 80%, so he's right at the border there, but he also had an 81.5% as a rookie, so he's in the realm of that. And then also success rate versus press, he had a 72% success rate, and you want to be above 70% there. So he's definitely getting open. And the other thing too is like now that the older brother gone off to college, like can he continue to get open? Is he going to be seeing, better coverage? And I think there you can kind of lean on the Kubiak system, in kind of getting him in motion. And then also just running. Matt Harmon was also talking about this condensed packages where you see these receivers close to the line of scrimmage, and then you can do different things with them there, which really opens up what they can do and what kind of looks they're seeing on coverage. They line up tight. They can move into the backfield, or they can flick out wide, and there's a correlation with that in how Matt Harmon is seeing wide receivers and their roles in the NFL. So you don't necessarily need a big, 210 pound, 6 foot guy as your X receiver anymore. You can kind of get away with these smaller frame guys, and just kind of have some more unique packages to help get them open. So overall, man, I'm still in on JSN. I made the big trade for him last year in Toe Clan, based on what I thought he could be, and that bet paid off. At least for the time being. I think it was, I traded Tyreek Hill coming off of that career year, and I got JSN, Hollywood Brown back. It was a big bet. I think I got killed on it. I think at the time, but JSN went off last year, and that felt good. But yeah, man, I tried tearing off of him. I think I tried getting Rome Odunze plus for JSN, and even to a Seahawks fan, the Seahawks fan came back to me and he said, "No, man, I'm okay. I don't really want to overpay for JSN." I'm like, it's kind of just market value.
Right.
And he was like, "No, I'm good." And I was like, "All right, like it is what it is." And I haven't seen him be traded for too much. I don't know. What are you seeing in your leagues? Is he being moved a lot, or?
No, I think that's the thing is, if you had him last season, you experienced that top 10 wide receiver, and you're just like, I think you're bought in, right? Either that, or as soon as everything happened in the offseason, Gino, all the quarterbacks, like the
Mm,
coordinator, then you moved then and maybe sold probably cheap, because maybe you panicked a little bit. But otherwise, I think you're kind of in a situation where, unless somebody kind of comes around and is like, no, I believe JSN is gonna, all those metrics you're talking about, he's like, this is the elite, and he's like right there, right? Like he's almost there. So unless you get that person that just believes that no, he's gonna make that jump, and next year instead of being worth a first plus, he's gonna be worth two firsts, or maybe make that crazy jump and be the next Malik Neighbors, or the next type of CeeDee Lamb type of guy, you're probably not going to be able to sell him. But I know we didn't exactly go over this, but I just pulled up some wide receiver rankings, and I'm just gonna fire on at you real quick, and you just tell me who do you prefer, like JSN or Lad McConkey?
oh, lad, easy.
Okay, JSN or AJ Brown?
Ooh. Oh man, that's tougher. I feel like I probably am gonna lead JSN there just because I think AJ Brown is a stud. So good, man. Like per route metrics, off the charts. If he had volume, he could be wide receiver one in this league, but he's stuck on that offense where they want to just run the ball, and they're spreading out the targets, and Jalen Hurts is taking the touchdowns, so there's no real out for him there. Yeah, I think I'll gamble on JSN there. I kind of like taking that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on both of those. I think AJ Brown is stuck behind the tush push, and I mean we saw it in Tennessee when he was the guy, and they were willing to. If he was with Joe Burrow or with Mahomes, he like you said, I think he would be probably right there with Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Like, I mean, he's got the frame, he's got the ability. Okay, those are just a couple names. I think those are pretty, AJ Brown and Lad McConkey. I think those are some pretty, guys that are pretty popular. So I just wanted to get your kind of your quick thoughts on those two guys. But I agree with both of you, with both of those names with you. Um, yeah, man. I think you want to move on to the surprise players
Let me do I'll say a couple more things
for
about
sure.
JSN here before we do. I'm curious. I always kind of think about players like this when they're kind of stuck in between, and I like to classify them like as are they a tier up kind of player or a tier down kind of player? And I'm curious, and it may depend, on where your team is at and what you're looking for, but I'm curious, like is he even that type of wide receiver or talent where people are going to tier down from like a Puka or like a Malik Neighbors and take JSN plus a first or a first and a second or something like that. Do you see him as that type of player, or is he more the people are trying to tier up into JSN and you're gonna have to take like another wide receiver and a pick?
Yeah, I think I'd rather have him as a piece that I'm trying to use to tier up than seeing him more as like a tier down piece. Like I think if you go to somebody who's either their team is needing depth or they're maybe rebuilding whatever have you, and you have JSN, he's still so young, right? He's seen as such a young guy that for a team that's trying to break an asset like an elite asset into multiple. Um, either picks or players. Maybe you got a JSN. I know in a league, I was talking about it the other day. I have JSN, Garrett Wilson, and George Pickens, and I'm trying to go big game hunting, as I call it. Like I'm trying to get one of those top 3 to 4 guys, and we were talking about it. We are talking about some other guys. It seemed like most people thought that it would be possible. So maybe you have a bunch of almost elite assets, or you like you said, a first and a second. I think you can talk to somebody. Chase right now is probably the only player nobody wants to sell anywhere because I've tried. Probably the worst time to try to buy him. But I think if you go to the Justin Jefferson manager or the CD Lamb or the Malik Neighbors with JSN, a first and a second, or JSN and some other decent, attractive piece, I think he's the perfect player to do that. He's
Mm.
shown he can be good enough and he's young enough where somebody's like, okay, I'm okay moving off of him. I think like um like you said, I think he's definitely more of a tier up piece than a tier down.
I would like to see him that way. I just don't know if he's viewed that way, and that's the hard part. And actually, I didn't mean to set you up like this, but I'm looking at the Dynasty Daddy trade database too. There's only been 6 trades for him in the last month, so that kind
Wow.
of goes to show you, like, how what the market is for him. And most of the trades I'm seeing, people are tearing off of JSN and they're tearing down. There is one where you're tearing up, and it's JSN and a 26 first or Amon-Ra St. Brown and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, in situations like that, I try to think of like what do I think JSN high end is? Like if I think he can be elite, what is it? And I think it is an Amon-Ra type of season. Like the one he had, was it 2 years ago where he finished third or something like that, right? He was just a
Yeah.
monster. That's what I see. That's to me in my head, that's what I envision JSN. So moving him for that, I would be comfortable because if he turns into Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I already have Amon-Ra, like you know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I'm not losing value, and if I'm making the bet that JSN isn't gonna turn into that and he doesn't, then I'm coming out ahead in terms of like the points per game on my roster. But yeah, I think that's the market telling you kind of what we're saying. Like it's very stagnant. Like you're
Yeah.
kind of just waiting and seeing and hoping that it goes positive, or you probably bailed a while ago. But yeah, I think I'd be
Yeah.
more in the camp of believing that JSN, his talent, what we saw coming out of college, and that he can get it done with subpar quarterback play, which is, I mean, kind of what I think Darnold is going to be.
Yeah, I'm riding with them into Toklan, unless I'm looking to compete this year, and he's going to be one of my wide receivers. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe he's if you are looking off him, maybe he's a wait and see. Get a big game in season. Try and move him then when there's a little more buzz for him. But yeah, I think that's enough about JSN and the stats and the vibes around him. Let's move on to some surprise players here. Um, and I don't know, we want to throw out maybe two each, it looks like, or three each.
Yeah, I mean, I
Looks
I
like he,
I can. I think I'd focus if you wanted to go first or however you wanted to do it, but I'd just focus on my two that are on the same team, kind of because they kind of go hand in hand. If you want to
okay.
throw out three, whatever, whichever ones you feel the most not serious. What's the word I'm looking for? More confident. The most bullish on, in your opinion. We could go ahead and do those.
Yeah, I think I'll talk on one, and he was a piece in a trade that we were just talking about. Amon-Ra St. Brown, and he is a dog. Like he is, I love the work ethic, and I love the chip on his shoulder that he carries, and the numbers he's putting out for you. But I'm a little concerned. I'm not saying the sky's fallen, but I do think there's a path for him to slide down a tier, and I think there's some correlation there with JMO. That he's getting a lot of hype already this season. He kind of had a breakout season last year, where this time last year he was getting that same hype. Um, but yeah, I mean, going back to Amon-Ra St. Brown, since the 2022 breakout where he had that late season breakout, I think it was like week 8 or 9 on. Um, he's kind of been in this slow decline in targets per route run. That 2022 season, he had the 32.3% targets per route run, which is just crazy good. 2023, when he had that insane season, when he put up, I think, I don't remember what it was. Actually, he had 29.1% targets per route run, so lower than the previous season by 3%. And then last year he slid down to a 27, targets per route run. So that's still really good. Yeah, I 27% is what we're looking for. It's not quite elite, which is why I'm kind of targeting him as someone who can slide a tier, because I think he is still viewed as that elite, or at least on the very brink of it. These guys that we've seen do it, and there's still hope that they can do it, like a Puka. And that team is just stacked too. Between Jameer Gibbs and Monty and JMO, and they they're just always putting up points though. So I think there's a lot of volume where he can do it. Um, his yard, Amon-Ra St. Brown's yards per route run has also been somewhat declining. 2.57 that first year, which makes sense because he wasn't on the field a bunch, and then 2.7 in that huge year, and then in 2024 last year he went down to 2.4. And I really do think that the JMO is the piece in that. In 2022, JMO came into the season with an ACL, and he was recovering an injury that he was recovering from. Um, and I think he played 6 games that year. And then in 2023, he was suspended for gambling and still getting up to speed because his rookie year was shot. Um, and in 2024 is when he really took. He was the wide receiver 18 last year. He went 58 for 1,007 touchdowns. He had a 19.7 targets per run with 2.2 yards per route run. So he showed up, and I think he can take more away. And Dan Campbell just loves JMO. They spent a high end first round pick on him. The 112 is what they chose to go get him, and Earlier this year, he said the sky's the limit for him. We expect him to have a huge season. We really do, man. He's going to be one of these guys that we're going to lean on this year and is really going to be big for us. And that's just coach speak. Take it for what you will, but the coach speak index on Dan Campbell is they call him highly trustworthy. And it's actually really funny if you go look on their site. It says it's highly straight a shooter Dan Campbell is, given all the caffeine in his system, which I found that to be humorous. But yeah, man, I think ARSB is just outside those top tier wide receivers, and I think he can probably fall another tier into that AJ Brown, and settle into there, and like Garrett Wilson, like borderline wide receiver ones. And I think there's a path where him and JMO kind of converge in values. Um, Maybe not this year, but they at least get a lot closer to each other. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is someone where I think I see at the end of the season us kind of looking back and being like, oh, he's not what we thought he was, or he's not that elite guy that we thought he was. Um, and he's, just a really good wide receiver. Um, but who knows? The counterpoint too is that he was playing with a knee injury last year. I think he had some surgery to clean that up. So maybe the dip in stats is just kind of related to that injury, and maybe he just jumps right back into that high end wide receiver one status. I think I'm the type of guy I'm always trying to find the value in these guys and see it with the Amon-Ra. Um, but yeah, man, it's a sad day because I really do like him. Um, but yeah, man, who you got for your first surprise player?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of bounce off kind of a few of the things that you said, I think that it's not necessarily Amon-Ra St. Brown himself. I think he's been not because of so much how bad like he's played badly, but I think he's been leapfrogged out of that tier. Like I think guys that have come in like Malik Neighbors,
Good
um,
point.
and Puka, I think just because they've played and people see that elite. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, even though he finished third in his best year, it's hard to still see unless you're playing in a full PPR, or some sort of like tiered PPR, seeing him finish first in your league. And then every time I think about St. Brown, I just don't like. I don't look at my roster and see St. Brown as my wide receiver one and feel quite as happy as like if I look at my roster and I see a Jefferson, a CD, like kind of what we're talking about. So I think he's just been leapfrogged out of that tier, and I think he's just for the rest of his career, he's gonna spike some years, but he's always just gonna be that very consistent guy that you'd love to pair with one of a guy just right above him, so that you have like the best wide receiver room in a dynasty portfolio, or the perfect type of guy that if he has another spike year, like if he has another time where he's in the top five, I would be selling because I don't think he's gonna do
Mm.
that all that much. So I agree with you completely. I think and I think that offense just besides the running backs, I think they do score a lot of points and there's a lot going on. They did lose their coordinator, which scares me. Everybody says, well, they brought the in-house guy, and I'm like, but that doesn't guarantee that he's going to be what is it, Glenn Johnson? What was his something Johnson, right? The OC? I can't remember. But anyways, like nothing guarantees that he's going to be that same guy, right? Like just because he is part of the system doesn't automatically mean he's going to do the same thing. And I think there is just so many mouths to feed on that team that it's
Yeah.
hard to see that upside. Yeah, with me, the two guys, not to be all negative, but it's kind of two. I see them as two sides of the same coin, and I hear a lot about the worries with Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins offense. So the two guys I wanted to talk about were Waddle and Achan. Everybody seems very in on Achan. I see startups. He seems to go right after kind of that elite tier. Everybody kind of wants to almost put him. He kind of feels like a JSN type of player, where like people I think see him almost as elite, right? You got like the Bijan, Genti now, and Gibbs type of elite three guys that I think most people would say are in their own tier, and then I think right below that you have another group of people, and HN is normally put into that. But a lot of people seem to be down on the Dolphins offense because of Tua and his health concerns. What happens if he gets another concussion, that sort of thing. And I agree, it's definitely worrying. But I don't see what we saw with HN and how badly his metrics and efficiency dropped, and then what that meant for his production. I feel like that should be way more of a red flag than it is within the community. I think a lot of people are going to go into the season, maybe redraft or into Dynasty, with HN as a central piece. And I think they might be way more disappointed than they're thinking. I think they have a league winning type of player, right? We always talk about league winners, when maybe he's just not nearly as good when he's just not extremely effective. Like if the Dolphins offense is struggling again, like it did last year, I think everybody struggles again, and I don't see why HN, last year he wasn't bulletproof from that. I think why would it change again? I think one of the things we and me have talked about is Waddle, who I kind of see on the opposite side, right? There's all this talk about Tyreek, his decline. Is he going to get traded? Is he not? I think if the moment Tyreek either demands the trade, or the Dolphins are finally tired of him and trade him, I think Waddle shoots up everybody's boards, everybody's value. So he's actually a player that I think people are quite down on. I think his value is quite depressed. You could probably get him for pretty cheap right now, and I think he's somebody that will be surprising. I mean, we've seen Waddle. He has the talent. He's had a very good finish in a season. He does have injury concerns. You always have to worry about Tua. What happens there? Like what are they doing? Who's their backup quarterback? How are they going to do that situation better? But I'm willing to bet on Waddle's talent, especially at the price right now. It's not going to cost you a lot to go get Waddle on your team, and he's the perfect wide receiver 3 to or a flex guy to fit into your roster that I think can be a very surprising at the end of the season. You're like, oh, Waddle finished wide receiver 15, and he's not valued like that right now, right? I think he's probably way closer to a bottom tier wide receiver 2 than an upper tier wide receiver 2. So for that price, I'm willing to make that bet. I'm willing to make the bet that if the offense resurges and HN is good, I don't really see how then that means Tua's healthy, which then means Waddle should go back to being this, not elite asset, but right there. And I think an elite asset if Tyreek Hill is traded. So those are kind of my guys that are, I'm kind of like, I think maybe the opposite of the market, I would say. I mean, you would say so, right? I'm probably kind of zigging while everybody's sagging with those two players.
You might be surprised at how low Waddle 31 on
Wow.
fantasy or yeah, and he's actually below Chris Olave, which is shocking
Yeah.
given like we're talking about injury concerns. I guess Olave is the wide receiver team, but those Saints are not good right now. So it's just I'm with you, man. Like I got Waddle in a trade earlier, and he felt like just an add-on. And this was a deep league, so I was tearing off Garrett Wilson, and I got Jalen Waddle, I got Ricky Pearsall and Tucker Kraft, and I gave up, Garrett Wilson and a pick or something like that. And in a really deep league, it's 14 teams start 13 players, so that felt like a huge win. And I was like, I'll take the bet on Waddle, and then I still get the production of Kraft and Pearsall on that one. And then yeah, man, on Achane, I'm kind of with you. Like I I get the upside case for him, and the upside is real nice. We saw what it was with him last year. I faded him last year, and in the first part of the year, I was like, "You're getting fade and Achane. He's looking really good when Tua's on the field."
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, they just picked up a new running back too, Ollie Gordon, who I like a lot. I think he's really good. I don't think he's going to take the role from him, but Achan has injury concerns, and if he does get injured and Ollie Gordon gets in there and good, like that's another out for Achan. If Tua just decides to up and leave, like we saw what Achan was without Tua, and it wasn't fun. That was not a fun ride that you want to be a part of. So I'm with you. I actually I drafted him in the startup, and begrudgingly. I mean, to be honest, it was the running back scoring were juiced. It was half PPR, and then running backs got an extra half point per reception. And then there's also rushing first downs added on to that. So I took him, in like the fourth round in a 10-team league, and I did it just because he catches passes, and I
Right.
think he can put up a lot of points in that. And then after the draft, I was like, what am I doing? Like I gotta sell this guy. I gotta get rid of him. And I think I ended up trading him for I got Rashi Rice and a 26 first, but the 26 first is probably going to be the 101. So I got reamed in the chat for that one. I probably selling low on HN. That's one of those trades where we could look back at the end of this season and the values could just flip on HN and Rice. So we'll see. We'll see, man. I'm gonna jump in here on my next player unless you got a little more you want to add.
No, go for it.
All right, cool. All right, man. This is gross. I don't really feel proud talking about this one, but I'm just calling it like I see it. And I brought this up in the fantasy football Discord. Um, and I think I phrased it as Daniel Jones is going to be this year's Sam Darnold, which is probably a little hyperbolic, but I do believe he's going to be relevant this year. I mean, word in training camp is that he's already the starter, and he's someone that I've always thought was not bad. He's not an elite starter. I don't think he's winning games for a franchise necessarily, but he runs. He runs the ball and he's accurate with the ball, and I think he can put up fantasy points. And when we're looking at players he's played with and weapons that he's had, um, this might be the best overall team and weapons that he's had as a whole unit. Um, I mean, he's played with Saquon Barkley, and I'm not saying Jonathan Taylor is as good as Saquon Barkley, and I'm definitely not saying Malik Neighbors is as good as Michael Pittman or Josh Downs for that matter. But the offensive line is a huge, huge upgrade, and Daniel Jones, when in a clean pocket, I think is like top five most accurate passer, something like that. Um, and he's got weapons that he can get the ball to. Between Michael Pittman Jr., who's no slouch, he's coming off a bad year, but I mean, he was looking, he was like a low end, high end wide receiver too, a couple years ago, and he's played with the back end, played through it. Josh Downs is someone I'm really high on. He's got really good per route run metrics. He might be someone we bring up in stats and vibes later. And then they just got their new tight end Tyler Warren, and then Jonathan Taylor, and Shane Steichen. This is actually really interesting. So after I brought this up, this is after I was listening to a podcast, Dynasty Warzone. Memphis and Jerry do a really good podcast. I think Player Profile of the Network. They Memphis was saying the same thing. He's a Colts fan, and he was saying that he thinks Daniel Jones is a sneaky player to add at value right now. Um, kind of saying a lot of the same things I'm saying, but one point he brought up, which I thought was Shane Steichen gets the most out of his quarterbacks. Everyone except Anthony Richardson, which we won't get into here. But he was talking about Jalen Hurts when Jalen Hurts had one of his career years that was under Shane Steichen, Gardner Minshew, and then I feel like there was another one I'm blanking on now too. Um, but I think he can get the most out of Daniel Jones here, and I think the rushing upside with Daniel Jones is probably going to make him more fantasy relevant than people. Yeah, and just him in the offense, I really think Shane Steichen is just going to get the most of Daniel Jones. I think he has the legs to kind of boost that, or at least compound on top of what Shane Steichen can give him, and he will be fantasy relevant this year. I mean, he's going on the board past wide receiver or past quarterback 32. Like he's not even being drafted as a starting quarterback right now. So in startups, I'm pretty sure you can get him in like 16th, 17th round. In one league, I shot over 27 second for him, and that was in that really deep league, 14 team, 13 team starter or 13 player starter league. I'm contending my quarterbacks are Purdy and Dak Prescott and then super flex. I just wanted another quarterback to feel good about in the 2027 cheap price to pay in this league where quarterbacks that production is just through the roof. There's all sorts of scoring bonuses for them. So that seemed cheap for me to go grab him, and I can lean on him as my third guy to plug in for bye weeks or in case one of my other guys goes. And I really think that he'll have some fantasy relevance. I don't think he's going to get another contract this buy type of thing. If you are wanting to, get a quick value flip, I think that's probably possible. I think you could probably get him for cheap right now, and then maybe when someone needs a quarterback, you could probably flip them for 2 seconds, or I don't know, maybe if you're lucky, you can get a future first. I don't know if that's in your league or not, but yeah, man, I don't know. I think there's some value to mine there. But give me your thoughts on this. You can hold your nose while you say it if you need to.
Well, to be honest, those things where it's like, oh, this is a X tweet, but it's really this other type about something else tweet. I thought this was a Josh Downs tweet bundled up as a Daniel Jones tweet, because I mean that guy's hype is going through the roof, and I know you're a believer in that Kool-Aid. So I thought that's where we were going. No, I honestly I think I agree. I think your position, what you just said, is your quarterback three in a super flex. He's the perfect guy that you're like, okay, I have to start Daniel Jones on a bye week, or Dak gets hurt for a few weeks. I'm okay starting Daniel Jones because his rushing upside. I think what you said about his O line being probably the best O line he's gonna play behind. I think those are great points. I mean, Anthony Richardson to me is toast. I mean, he's already still talking about his shoulder from last year. Like this is, it's brutal with him. So I think he's probably the starter unless things go horribly wrong and they're just like, let me roll out Anthony Richardson for the last 5 games to see if I really have a starting quarterback here anywhere. But otherwise, I think if he's playing well and the team's winning, I don't think they're gonna pull the plug on him like they kind of did to Justin Fields. I think everybody loves to like compare things to like the previous years. I don't think he's this year's Sam Darnold, but I do think he's the type of guy that's a little sneaky. If he's that cheap, he's like perfect in a super flex to make my quarterback, or even if he's my fourth quarterback. I don't usually love four quarterbacks in super flex, but if he's really that cheap and he's a starting quarterback and his rushing can really kind of be an upside at some point, I think I'd love that. And like you said, I don't think it's crazy. I mean, I just said don't compare him to Sam Darnold, but like last year in Toklan, I didn't feel great. Kirk Cousins was getting pretty much benched. I don't think he'd been benched yet, but and I needed another quarterback, and I went and I paid a first for Sam Darnold plus something from somebody. And I mean, Sam Darnold ended up being on my championship team. So I'm not saying
Nice.
obviously like we just said he's not this year's Sam Darnold, but I do think those sorts of situations can happen where if Daniel Jones is playing well enough and you got him for a second, a third, or whatever, you could have that chance to maybe pawn him off to somebody else in season when eventually one of these quarterbacks that somebody always gets hurt goes down. So yeah, I definitely don't um, disagree too much. Like I think he's gonna be serviceable. Like he's definitely a guy you're gonna want to start over pretty much every one of the rookies. Pretty much, whatever is going on in New Orleans, you're gonna want to, So he's gonna be somebody you're gonna want to start in a super flex, where for the most part you have to be starting those type of quarterbacks. So,
Not a fan of Tyler Shuck, huh?
no, no, or the Rattler, or what's the other guy? I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
even know.
Rattler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, man. I think I think you're spot on. I like it. You gotta hold your nose a little bit, but sometimes you gotta dig through the trash to find the gems.
I'm always finding the gems. All right, man. What you got for your last surprise player?
So the only one I was kind of looking at, and this might just be contrarian, or maybe because I just didn't really believe it coming out of college as much, even though he got a lot of hype. I know there was a ton of anti-Rashad White, last season. Bucky Irving's coming for his job, and I mean that was true. People that were on that train were there. I think though hype has kind of maybe gotten out of hand, or maybe I'm just blind to it. I think that they still want a committee there. I think they still want Rashad White involved. I think Sean Tucker also is going to be involved. And I just don't know if I believe that Bucky Irving really is the truth, right? And I don't have any shares or would have sold them, probably sold high now. But it's hard for me to believe that Bucky Irving, what he's, some rankings have him right outside the top, like 5, 6. He's maybe running back 7, 8, something like that. Um, it's just kind of hard for me to believe, but maybe I'm just not a believer. I don't, this is more full vibes. Like, I think all the stats would probably say I'm wrong. Maybe it's just me being dumb, but he's just not somebody I really believe in. I really believe in that Tampa offense. I think he's still going to be good, but I just don't see that upside that you see with some players, and for where he's going. Um, I think he's being drafted at his ceiling. I think he's being drafted at probably where he's gonna end up. And to me, in Dynasty, when I see those type of things, it's just a thought of, can I sell at the highest point? Is there a higher point coming? Like, is there really like a Bucky Irving top 3 finish coming that I'm gonna miss out if I sell now? I personally don't see it. I think he can maybe improve a little bit better. Maybe he solidifies himself. Maybe he is on the field more, and they put Rashad White more on the bench. He's not out on the snap share as much, but I think they really like what Rashad White gives them in the passing game. I think, or a spelling Bucky. I think they still like White quite a bit, even if he's not as efficient. Um, so I'm just thinking, like, is he a potential person that you can sell high on right now, and maybe take him and go get a Bijan, a Gibbs, a Genti, some sort of package up, like where we were kind of talking about, kind of going back to that. Is he a tier up player, or is he a tier down player? Like right now, I think his value is so high. So many people love Bucky Irving because, I mean, honestly, he is a fun player to watch. I watched a lot of Bucks games on the red zone because I had a lot of Mike Evans. Just complete disclosure, Mike Evans on a lot of my dynasty rosters. But tangentially, Bucky Irving is a fun guy. You watch him run, and it's like it's exciting, right? And those, I mean, part of it, like we said, is about fun. He's a fun guy to have on your roster to watch. So I think, I don't know, I just see him as a good opportunity to sell out, and I don't think you're gonna miss too much of his ceiling.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I don't have any Bucky, um, which I'm sad about because I do like the idea of tearing up into one of those, Gibbs or Genty players. I am curious what it would take to do that. But yeah, I mean, Bucky Irving or Chase Brown, like they're kind of the same to me. Like I know Bucky Irving's a lot younger, but like role wise, like they don't feel cemented. But they're 8 spots apart in startup rankings. Then that's probably like 4 or 5 rounds. No, maybe not that many. Maybe like 3 or 4 rounds. Um, so it's just kind of, I'm with you, man. Like I'm not buying Bucky Irving right now. I'm not taking him in startups right now because the value that you have to invest in that and what you're losing at other positions is like, here, let me try and pull up like some ADP here really quick, see where Bucky Irving's going. Because I mean, when you compare it to like a wide receiver that you could have, or a quarterback at that same spot, Bucky Irving and JSN are going back to back. Um, Garrett Wilson is going after Bucky Irving. Like, I think I'd rather have Garrett Wilson. The CJ Stroud is going after Bucky Irving. Um, Drake May is going right before him. Like, give me. I think I'd rather have all those players, just because, like you said, like I don't think Rashad White's going away, and if it's not Rashad White, it might be Sean Tucker. Like he also flashed last year. So Bucky Irving was playing, beat up. Like, like that's another question is does he sustain the workload? to get to that higher tier of player that you're talking about, I have questions. So I'm with you. I think it's a good idea to sell on the hype right now. Although I will say, I think he got some coach speak either today or yesterday. I think they were saying they're. I think Todd Bowles was saying they're going to try and lean on him as more as a lead back. But take that for what you will. I don't know what Todd Bowles is looking like in the coach speak index.
Yeah, I mean, even more hype to throw on it. I just
There you go.
if you can get into, I don't know, even like an Amari Hampton type of player, yeah, like I would much rather do that. I think we know, what those guys are. The running back landscape in Dynasty is actually very, very interesting. Though I was thinking about this. We just had this great draft class, but it still feels like there's a lot kind of tangent here, but like there's a lot of room really if you can make the right bet on who the guys like. I mean, to me, I don't. I mean, I guess I'm just like not the ageist that everybody else is, but I think Saquon's locked in that top with those other guys, even though he is like 5, 6 years older. But I mean, I just don't really know how you can look at Saquon and with behind that Philly offense and in that offensive system and not say he deserves to be up there. I get he's 28, but that's another tangent on the tangent. But like besides Gibbs, Bijan, and Genti, it seems like there could be a huge discrepancy from people's rankings after those three. Like, is it Hampton? Is it where's Bucky? Where's Achan, JT, Brees Hall, Quinshaw Junkins, all the rookies? Christian McCaffrey as an older guy, Josh Jacobs, and it just seems like there's a lot of room in that area. If you can make the right bet either in your rookie draft or on an Achan or an Irving or a Brees Hall to bounce back and then maybe go get a big contract, it seems like there's just a lot of value because I feel like there's just so much. Like wide receiver seems very set to me. Like you could probably do a top 12 and ask a lot of people and you'd probably end up with a lot of the same names. I think if you did like a top 12 of running backs, you would have such, besides the top end, such a disparity that it just feels like there has to be some value to maybe take Bucky Irving, who like is that guy that a lot of people think is that guy, and go get an actual guy that you feel really safe about. So yeah, man, I just it's one of those things that I'm okay being wrong on, right? Like earlier you said, draft to be right, and I'm okay being wrong on Bucky Irving, and if he's the truth,
Same.
then dang, okay, I missed that one. But if I trade Bucky Irving for Bijan Robinson and Bucky Irving ends up being the guy, I don't feel too bad, right? Like I have Bijan, I'll look at Bijan on my roster and be like, all right, whatever I traded on top of Bucky, I'm okay because I still, I have Bijan. I maybe lost value, right? If you make the wrong bet, but betting in that way, at least what you have in return, what you're gonna have in hand, is not gonna feel too bad.
No, yeah, those are great points too about the running back market and how you can capitalize on it. There's some good theory to be mined there. Maybe we dive in a little bit more in another episode because I like where your head's at there. But yeah, man, hey, we did it. We the pilot
That's it,
in the
man.
books, man.
Episode one
Yeah,
in the books.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, thanks for everyone for taking a look and listening and plugging in. We are looking forward to more of these. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. Jose, any leaving thoughts?
No, man, this was great. I'm really glad we finally came around and got this done. I think for people listening, the the sorry the stats and vibes is going to be something that we're going to be you can look forward to on future episodes. I think as you said, I think going through these running backs and parsing through the data and just what are we looking at in value after the big three names, I think would be great for a future episode. And yeah, man, it was a pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, you guys stick with us where we'll give you a win today with mentality. And with that, we're signing off. Till next time, guys. See ya.